Once upon a time, in the ancient kingdom of Ife in western Nigeria, there lived a princess named Adaugo. She was the most beautiful woman anyone had ever seen, with flawless dark skin, eyes that shone like brilliant diamonds, and a smile that could light up even the darkest of nights. Adaugo's father was the powerful Ooni, or king of the Yoruba people. He loved his daughter more than anything in the world and wanted only the best for her. As she grew into a woman of marriageable age, noblemen and princes from all across the lands sought her hand. Adaugo's beauty and status as a princess made her the most sought-after bride in all of Nigeria. One by one, the most eligible bachelors were presented to Princess Adaugo as potential husbands. They came bearing lavish gifts, gold, jewels, bolts of finely woven fabric, and more. Some were strikingly handsome, others were brave warriors, while still others came from fabulously wealthy families. But none seemed to catch Adaugo's eye or spark her interest. "Father, I appreciate the efforts you are making to find me a husband," Adaugo told the Ooni one day in the royal palace. "But none of these men appeal to me. They seem shallow or dull or only interested in my beauty and status rather than who I truly am inside." The Ooni frowned, his brow furrowing with concern. "But my daughter, you must take a husband soon. It is the way of our people and your duty to provide an heir to the throne." Adaugo shook her head stubbornly. "I will not marry just for the sake of bearing a child or pleasing others. My heart must belong to my husband alone." The months passed and more suitors continued to arrive, but Adaugo rejected them all. She became known far and wide as the princess who turned away every man that courted her, no matter how wealthy or noble he was. Some began to call her the arrogant princess behind her back, for her refusals were seen as highly insulting by many of the suitors. One evening, after dismissing yet another suitor, Adaugo retreated to the royal gardens for a stroll among the flowers and trees. As the sun set over the palace, she found herself wandering down a narrow path towards the thick forest that bordered the gardens. Her parents had warned her many times about the dangers that lurked in those woods, but she bravely pressed onwards, drawn by some unseen force. As she entered the forest, the light rapidly faded until Adaugo found herself in complete darkness. She stumbled blindly over gnarled roots and branches until suddenly, a figure appeared before her, shrouded in swirling mists. "Who goes there?" Adaugo cried, her voice trembling slightly despite her efforts to seem fearless. "Show yourself." The mist slowly parted to reveal the form of a strikingly handsome young man. He seemed almost too perfectly formed, with chiseled features, piercing eyes and an aura of power that made Adaugo's heart skip a beat. "Do not be afraid," the figure said in a rich, deep voice that seemed to caress Adaugo's ears. "I am simply a traveler passing through these woods. But I could not help but be drawn to your immense beauty, princess." Adaugo felt her face flush at the compliment. She opened her mouth to respond but found herself stunned into silence by the stranger's devastating good looks and charming demeanor. The young man flashed a smile that made Adaugo's knees go weak. "Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Chukwuemeka, though you may call me Emeka if you wish." He stepped closer, close enough for Adaugo to see the intricate woven pattern on the robes he wore and breathe in his deep, musky scent. Every sense was overwhelmed by his presence. "It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance, Emeka," Adaugo finally managed to say, silently cursing herself for sounding so flustered. She was a princess and used to brushing off even the smoothest attempts at flattery. But there was something different, something almost supernatural about this man that caused her to let her guard down. Emeka's smile widened as he seemed to sense the effect he was having on her. With a wave of his hand, the darkness around them faded until they were bathed in a warm, radiant light despite the lack of any visible fire or torch. "You are even more stunning up close, princess," Emeka murmured huskily. "Those eyes, that skin, you are perfection itself." Adaugo felt an unfamiliar heat rushing to her cheeks. She knew she should leave at once, return to the safety of the palace. This strange man clearly had certain unsavory intentions despite his honeyed words and striking appearance. And yet, some powerful force kept her rooted to the spot, drowning in his intoxicating gaze. "From where do you hail, Emeka?" she heard herself asking, as if she were a powerless onlooker trapped inside her own body. I have never encountered a man like you before in all my travels. The corners of Emeka's full lips twitched in an amused smirk. I am from a land much farther than you can possibly imagine, princess. A place human eyes have never beheld. He began to circle slowly around her, like a predator sizing up its prey. Adaugo felt her pulse quicken but made no move to flee. It was as if an insistent, unseen hand held her fast. Tell me, princess, how is it that one as lovely as you has failed to take a husband? Emeka purred, his heated gaze roving over every inch of her body. Surely the men of this kingdom must be either blind or insane to let such a rare jewel go unclaimed. Adaugo opened her mouth but no words came out. She simply did not have an answer for this enigmatic stranger. All she knew was that she felt more flushed, more enthralled, more awakened than she ever had before in her life. Seeming to sense her speechlessness, Emeka laughed softly and moved in closer until his face was just inches from Adaugo's. She could feel the warmth of his breath on her skin and smelled a hint of exotic spices. Well then, princess, if those foolish men are too blind to appreciate you, he whispered, bringing one hand up to gently caress her cheek. Perhaps you will allow me to open your eyes to the pleasures only a real man can provide. Before Adaugo could react, Emeka crushed his lips against hers in a searing, passionate kiss. She felt a jolt of electricity course through her body at his touch, setting her very nerves on fire. This was so new, so thrilling, so forbidden, and so undeniably right. The princess did not resist as Emeka expertly worked his way along the smooth curve of her neck with his mouth, nipping and tasting her soft, velvety skin. She was utterly powerless against the storm of desire he unleashed within her, surrendering to the intoxicating unfamiliar hunger that flooded her senses. As his skilled hands roamed over the elegant curves of her body, any last shred of inhibition melted away from the princess's mind. She did not care that her parents would be horrified if they could see her now, wrapped in the arms of a strange man in the woods like a common harlot. She did not care that this could very well cost her the throne she was meant to inherit. All that mattered was feeding the raging flames Emeka had ignited in her core. When Adaugo finally returned to the palace in the pale light of dawn, she was in an absolute daze. Her hair was disheveled, her clothes in disarray, and there was a radiant glow about her flushed cheeks. She appeared a woman utterly undone, and it showed in her eyes that she did not care one bit. Over the days and weeks that followed, Adaugo continued to steal away and meet her mysterious lover in the forest at every opportunity. She was utterly consumed, bewitched by Emeka's supernatural charms and insatiable lust. Nothing else mattered but the incredible passion he sparked within her. Not her royal duties, not her reputation, not even her own sense of self. The princess's parents noticed the dramatic change in the daughter's behavior and disposition, but every time they tried to question her about what was happening, Adaugo dismissed their concerns as nothing. She became sullen and withdrawn around everyone except for Emeka. Adaugo started showing signs of pregnancy and gaining weight. One day she suddenly had the urge of vomiting and she ran out of the palace and vomited like a pregnant woman. Her father discovered her pregnancy symptoms and hired the best physicians in the community to examine her secretly so that no one would know if she is pregnant, because it's an abomination for a princess to get pregnant out of wedlock. After the examination, it was discovered that Adaugo was 2 weeks pregnant for her mysterious lover that lives in the forest. Her father the king instructed her to get the man that got her pregnant so they will be married before the community finds out her predicament. Nevertheless, the next day Adaugo went to her mysterious lover to break the news of her pregnancy to him and her father's intention to wed him immediately before anyone finds out, but unfortunately for Adaugo, Emeka revealed his secret to the princess. Emeka told the princess that he was a prince from the spirit world, and now that Adaugo is pregnant for him, they too must return to the spirit world where Adaugo will become a future queen. On hearing the truth, Adaugo wanted to run, but Emeka used his mysterious powers to hold her and they too vanished into thin air. After days of not seeing nor hearing from Adaugo, the king ordered his guards to go in search for the princess. They searched for months and no sign of her. At last the kingship was taken away from Adaugo's father and given to another family because of his inability to produce an heir.